All right, what is going on? Welcome to episode 23 of Asset Creators. Today, we're going to be talking about how you are sitting on a content goldmine. Now, I'm going to go deep into what the goldmine actually is, why I love it, why I believe that you should love it too, and a little bit of the nitty-gritties of how you can actually apply this into your solo business. So, yeah, really excited about that. Really excited. It's summer here in Canada. It's been over 30 degrees the last week, Celsius. And yeah, it feels good. Ready to dive in. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Now, we're going to start with what it is, why I love it, and the actual prompt for how do you actually use this. And what I mean by prompt is, yes, it's technically using AI, but we're going to get deeper into that. So don't you worry. Now, when we talk about what the goldmine actually is, I think it's really important to understand that we're all sitting on it. We all are. And here's what I do, and I'm just kind of explaining you the process first, and then we can start to talk about how it's relevant and how you can apply it, okay? So what I do is I record every single call that I do, whether it's with peers, clients, sales calls, any of it, right? So for example, I have a VA, and I get on calls with her all the time. And on those calls, I record them. I talk about things that aren't just, hey, this is what we need to do logistically. I talk about things that I'm experimenting with, things I'm doing, processes, things along those lines. Same thing with clients. And I'm going to get to why it's so important to record those client calls, not just to give to your clients, but also for you, for your content. And sales calls, right? Really important. Sales calls, they should be recorded for you to review and get better at sales, but also for content. Then what I do is I take the transcripts. So I record them with transcripts. Every single week, at the end of every week, I run them through Notebook LM, which is why the prompt is going to be relevant to you, to extract topics and ideas that are relevant and exciting to my target audience. And once again, I'm going to get into like why I do this and why I think you should be doing this too. But right now, I'm just kind of telling you what it is, okay? So I take all those topics, those ideas, and I asked Notebook LM to pull out all the topics and ideas that are going to be relevant and exciting to my target audience. And then what this allows me to do is create all of my content from experience. And this episode today is actually an example of that, right? So I was on a call with my VA and I was telling her how I've been doing, because I've been doing this like the last 2 months roughly. And I was telling her that I've been doing this and we were kind of chatting about it. And then so when I ran this through my Notebook LM, it said, hey, talk about this. Like tell people that you're doing this and this is how you're coming up with your ideas and just talk about it. And that's literally what I'm doing. So this is all created from experience, right? So just so you know, if you're wondering, what does this look like? This is an example of it, okay? Now, here's why I actually love it so much. I've been doing it for about 2 months now, and I've been in love with it. I'm never going to really go back. I don't believe so at this point anyway. So the first thing, which is really important, is you document experience versus fabricating your content to stand out. So here's what I mean. Russell Brunson, Gary Vee, you hear a lot of people talking about document, don't create, okay? But when you actually do it, when you're creating from experience, it gets so much easier to just create content, right? Because you're just talking about things that have already happened. Hey, this happened. Now, this is slightly different than just telling a story because, of course, storytelling is documenting, right? But you're kind of just talking about what you're doing, what you're trying, what you're experimenting with, what happened on a call, what you're building, what goals are you working towards, right? And that's kind of exciting because it takes away this pressure for you to be perfect and become this guru, right? Which is fabricated. And it's really hard to stand out when you're just fabricating content and like constructing content. If you think about it, when you see a new creator, right? Somebody maybe who's new to online business, and I've been through this, right? Is you see them like giving you tips. Like here's 3 tips or 3 ways to do an outcome, right? When they actually don't have any experience doing that. That is fabricating, right? They're trying to look like an expert. They're trying to put on this image that they know things that they don't know, right? Which, and I'm not hating on that. I've been there. I understand the game. But if I were to go back and start again, I would just be documenting, like, here's what I'm building, right? Here's what I learned from this book. Here's what I'm doing, versus trying to look like this expert and fabricating that versus not. So that's the first reason why I love it, is I just get to share with you like what I'm doing. Here's what I'm building. Here's what I'm learning. Here's this content goldmine, this new strategy of coming up with ideas and topics that I love and that I'm doing. Okay. Next, these are combos that have already happened, right? So like I said, at the end of every week, I get Notebook LM to pull it out. So I've already had these conversations. So I'm not having to create anything out of thin air or stare at a blank page or ask AI. And by the way, I'm not hating on AI either. I used to use AI to be like, hey, here's my target audience, come up with ideas, content ideas that would be relevant. But then what I was doing was I would start fabricating. Versus I've already had these conversations like, hey, I was on a sales call last week and I had this objection. Here's how I handled it. Or a client asked me this on a call. I think it'd be really important for you to hear this too. That kind of content, it's documenting it from experience and it just has a different feel to it. You can tell it's not me fabricating expertise, even though if I am trying to show expertise by saying, hey, I was on a client call or you understand. And another thing that I really, really love is that these are typically conversations with my target audience, right? So I know that it's going to be relevant to potential clients and prospects and leads who are potentially seeing my content, right? So for example, if I'm on a client call and they ask me a very specific question about something that they're struggling with, well, I already know that that's going to be relevant to my target audience because they are my target audience. They're literally a client who paid me money. And it's so good to just go straight to the source. They're asking me it, I'm sharing it, I'm answering it, and then I just share that online with my content. So these are really the top 3 reasons why I love it so much. Now, a little side note, a lot of my clients do struggle to write out content because the ideas don't come from experience. They come from AI or another creator. So if you're on LinkedIn and you see a creator you really admire or respect and you see a topic that they write about something, you might just say, oh, this big creator is writing about this, so I'm going to write about it, right? But then what you end up doing is fabricating, right? You end up just creating the content, trying to put it together versus writing from experience, right? And the same thing with AI. AI is really good at coming up with a bunch of ideas. And I'm not saying if you're doing it and it works, great. I'm just showing you what I'm doing, what's been working for me. But when you ask AI, like, hey, can you come up with 100 ideas that might be relevant to this audience? It's still going to get you back into fabricating again. Unless you do see an idea that it comes up with that you do have experience from. But when you're just talking about what's going on, man, it gets so much easier. So if you are somebody like most of my clients who writes their content and is struggling to write their content from like AI or looking at other creators, if that's you, then this is going to make your whole process easier, because that's what I'm a big fan of, is simplifying content creation. It's something we all have to do. I do enjoy it, but I enjoy it a lot more when I'm just talking about what I'm doing, what's going on, right? Now, if you're not having lots of client calls, because I know some of you might be watching this and be like, damn, Darren, this sounds cool, but I don't have a bunch of clients right now. I'm not doing sales calls all the time. Like, I don't have a bunch of transcripts from calls that I have recorded, right? Here's a couple ideas for you. You could do a daily end of day brain dump into a voice note. So on my phone, right, I have a Google Pixel. So the app that comes with it, it turns it into a transcript. So then I could just upload that. So at the end of the day, I would just be like, hey, here's everything I did today. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what I'm building. Here's an idea I had. Here's something cool I read in a book that really stood out to me and how it's relevant to me. And just at the end of every day, just brain dump it. Another thing is you could just hop on a networking call or hop on multiple networking calls, right? Because on those calls, you're going to be talking about yourself. You're also going to be listening to other people and getting ideas that way. So that's a cool way for you to take those transcripts and, pull out ideas from it. You can also use questions that you've been asked or seen asked. So for example, if you're on LinkedIn and you see somebody ask a question in the comment section, right? And you know the answer, you have a great answer to it. Well, you can just do a piece of content on that, right? You could say, hey, yesterday I was on LinkedIn and I saw somebody ask this question and I thought it was so good that I want to answer it here and whatever, right? And then you're documenting. I saw this thing. Here's how I would answer this, whatever. Okay. So you can see this really simplifies it. And like I said, you've already had these conversations. I've already had these conversations. And so might as well just use them, right? Instead of trying to create things out of thin air. So that's why I love it so much. Now, here's the prompt that you can use in Notebook LM, okay? So I opened like a mock example here of a Notebook LM that you can do. Obviously, I can't use the one that I actually use because it has my clients' names in there and stuff like that. But all you do, if you don't know Notebook LM, and also let me say this real quick. The reason that I like to use Notebook LM is because it's different from most language models. Now, I'm not an AI expert, okay? I'm not going to pretend I am. But I do know that with Notebook LM, it only pulls from your sources. You have to give it sources. So if you feed it your transcripts, everything it pulls out will be from those source documents. Versus if I go into, Gemini and I say, hey, create me a workout plan, it'll like look on the internet, but it'll create me things, right? Whereas this only takes from what you give it. So it eliminates hallucinations and things of that nature. So all you do is click add sources. Now you can click copied text here and you can just copy and paste all of your transcripts into here, or you can put them all into a PDF and then just upload it as one PDF. You can also take your target audience, your dream client, your ICP, whatever you want to call it, and your market, all the research you have on that, and upload that as a file. So then it'll pull out ideas that are only relevant to that. There's lots you can do here, but essentially what you want to do, upload your sources every single week, at the end of every week, from all your calls, your voice notes, whatever you're doing, get it to pull out those ideas. Boom. Now you're just literally just sharing what you've already talked about, what you're already doing, what you're building. It's such a cool way to create content. It's a lot more exciting than feeling like you're fabricating, forcing things, putting things together. I absolutely love it. I'm not going back anytime soon, I can tell you that. So I really wanted to share that today. And the idea of this content goldmine is that you're already sitting on all these ideas. You've already had the conversations. You're already doing these things. You've done these things. You're building these things, right? So you might as well just use what's already going on in your life. It eliminates this need for you to try to come across as this perfect expert, and you just got to share what's going on. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. And with that being said, that's it for today. And I will see you on the next episode.